On the last red snapper trip I took of the season, we ran out to about 170 feet of water or so, and got our limit in one spot. And then we started kind of looking around. I was going to try to look for something not red snapper, and about a quarter of a mile just idling around, saw this crazy show, and obviously had to stop and see what this was. So this was after just kind of looking around a little bit, actually about 171 feet deep. And if you see here, this is a classic Christmas tree pattern. And usually that means red snapper. So if you see something that looks kind of like a Christmas tree, triangle shaped, that is usually red snapper. These, big returns here, a lot of snapper. It's not always red snapper. You can get some grouper and other stuff down below. So we circled back around to that first big show and dropped a couple baits. There's Gal's got a fish on.
Big penny.
And he's fighting it. Fighting it up. And it kind of gave up halfway, gag, so I'm thinking, it might be a gag.
It's an AJ.
Liar.
All the big ones are.
Size fish.
It's a gag, dude. That's a grouper. It's a gag. Oh!
Nice.
Oh! He's so good. He's so good, dude.
So, nice gag grouper. Probably about a 15, 17 pounder, somewhere in there. Just what the doctor ordered when you're trying to get away from red snapper. So, a little close-up of it. Nice, healthy gag. Beautiful day on the water, by the way. Slick. And so we were, dropping baits on that big show and getting lots of hits, but some of those hits turned out like this.
Oh, dude, look at that drag peel.
Yeah, real.
There you go, there you go, there you go.
Oh!
Heartbreak. Broken fish. You can see that's not some heavy tackle. Just doubled over. So, after doing that, I watched 4 or 5 people. The boat owner, Caleb, said, hey, why don't you drop one? I like talk a little smack when I'm behind the wheel. Telling people, crank them, do what you got to do. So here's my shot.
What are you doing, Johnny? Get it up.
Let him go under the rocks.
Golly.
You guys can shut it.
Act like you've been there before.
Oh, I've been there, and this fish is about to be in the boat. Show you guys what you've been missing.
Let's see it. Talk about it. Be about it. That should be in the boat by now.
Oh, it's up.
Oh no! What?
What?
Oh, Johnny, I put you on.
So there's my own heartbreak. Big fish. I mean, that's 100-pound class rod. Just doubled over. Spiral wrap. Real fun. 6/0 pen. And 100-pound leader is what ended up breaking. Broke about halfway up. A little bit of a heartbreak there. As I normally do when I'm, out wondering kind of what I'm looking at on the depth finder, I sent the GoPro down. And 170 feet, a lot of current. We were just kind of drifting over the spot. I think I dropped it kind of late, this first drop. Took 2 of them. It's kind of close to the bottom. So what I'll see is you can see there's a kind of a darkish area and there's a light area. So the dark area is the hard bottom. That's where the fish were. So on this drop, we were a little bit off of it. You can see there's kind of a little crack here. There's a little rock or something right there. Hard to see, definitely as it's spinning around. But that's where the fish were, and you can see them kind of hanging out, mangrove snapper, beeliners, over in that area. So just kind of get the edge of it. So a lot of that show is, these snapper, the vermilions, beeliners, as a lot of people like to call them. Quite a few mangrove snapper as well. There's some red snapper in the background. that kind of come in to want to see what's going on. Triggerfish. So good biomass fish. And let me see. So that's a nicer mangrove snapper there as well. Almost looked like a grouper there for a second. So what was interesting about this spot is the red snapper kind of left us alone. We dropped a lot of bigger baits because we already had our red snapper limit. If you're looking to get away from the red snapper, the bigger the bait you can find, the better. So when we were getting our red snapper, we were dropping a lot of dead squid, frozen sardines, white bait. And so when you want those grouper, you're dropping bigger pinfish. You might, fillet out one of these vermilion snapper or beeline, or just use a head and use a fillet with a, something bigger on it. So they just kind of, all the other fish will peck at it, and then you'll get the grouper coming in after the fact. So here's something interesting, which made me think a little bit after the fact is, shark swimming into the camera. Could that have been what was eating some of our reds? Maybe, but the way the fish were acting, they weren't really running. They were kind of digging for the bottom, and the leaders were breaking, halfway up. Shark, if they're going to break you off, you're going to get broken off pretty much right at the hook. But even then, a shark on 100-pound leader, you'll get a much longer fight out of them than a quick pop like those grouper doing. That signifies to me that those fish were getting in the bottom and breaking you off in the bottom. So shark's interest in the camera swims right over. So just kind of drifted off the spot a little bit with this. And so I said, hey, bring me back around. Let's get one more drop on it. So the fish kind of chased the camera around a little bit, acting real curious. See if I can get everybody sick by going real fast like this. So reeling it up. So I got off the spot. So I said, I want to see what this is. Get one more drop on it. Obviously something a little special. Anytime you're going to get a grouper out, 180 feet of water, 170, 80 feet of water, you're on some decent bottom. So GoPro's going down. There's, some, looks like red snapper up in the column a little bit, higher up off the spot. Some more red snappers right there. Triggerfish swimming at the camera. So this was a little more on it. I'm still not quite sure what the major bottom is here. So you can see this is what we were fishing, was this show of bait. There's so much of it, it was hard to tell exactly what the bottom is. So let me just go back here real quick. So over here you can see these outlines look more like rocks, which I'm guessing is what's holding those grouper there. And you can see, some hard bottom, some shells, some little rocks, big porgy right there, margate, mangrove snapper. All fish that signify that you're on some good structure. So let me see if I can get it where it. So there's, you got a rock there, you got a little crack there, a little rock there. Good hard bottom, and you don't need much structure to hold fish, especially when you get out deeper. It takes just a little bit, something like this to hold a lot of fish. Right there is a grouper. So I think that's what we were getting broken off by. Let me just see if I can go back a little bit. It's hard to see because gags aren't the most curious fish. So right there, I think it's a nice big gag grouper. It's off in the distance a little bit. They're not like the snapper that swim right up to the camera. So he just kind of passes by, and he's gone. And so you can see, just a little bit of rocks, which is where that fish was. And so pretty much every time we hit over these little rock piles, little cracks, that's when we were getting hit by fish and getting broken off. They didn't want to venture far away from that. And it's kind of hard to anchor on this stuff, especially when you don't have much wind. If the current's strong, you can judge the current, but the current changes and makes it hard to fish. So we were just motor fishing, power fishing, just dropping baits right on this structure. That's when we were getting hit. So you can see some red snapper, hanging out right over it. And I was hoping to see some big gags up close, but they're tough to get on camera. So I just kind of play through it. The Vermilion snapper, always interested in, whatever you're dropping down. See if there's anything that I might have missed. There's always a lot of stuff happening on the camera. So that dark spot there, big mangrove snapper, some big red snapper hang out in this depth. So, as you can see, just, one or two rocks here and there. It's enough to hold fish. And what they'll do is they'll end up, digging out their own little structures around these rocks. That's where you get, what you call cracks, little ledges. The fish kind of make their own habitat. So, nice red snapper right there. It's a Christmas tree shape. This is what they do. They kind of hang out and stack up on top of each other. That's where you get those Christmas tree looks. There's another one in the back right there. So that's pretty much it. Just kind of want to show, what I experienced out deep recently. Great fishing. Red snapper was on fire as normal. Nothing unusual there. So the gags, if you want to get bigger gags, you kind of got to go away from those smaller baits and, start dropping some big stuff. And, it turns into fish like this. Even if you're getting a bunch of red snapper, just, drop bigger baits. There's definitely some bigger fish underneath. Bigger tackle, heavier rods, and that's your best shot, especially now that red snapper season's closed. I know a lot of people will start to focus more on, the grouper, amberjack in August when it opens back up. So remember, bring plenty of big bait. Have a lot of fun. All right, thanks, guys. If you like these, cool update. If you like these videos, be sure to subscribe. Throw me a like. You can visit my website, CaptainChappie.com. Always making jigs. Trying to get the news and some tips and tactics sections rolling. So I'll be sure to throw these videos up, and you can always, go back through my YouTube channel and see what I've done in the past. So thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed.